Good morning. Thank you for being here. Happy what?
Happy New Year.
Thank you for being here. My name is Billy Freeman. This class is going to be about how disaster response is managed. This is our conversation, okay? I just got some prompts up here, so this is our conversation. How do you think, what is one of the tools they use to manage a disaster? Anybody have a guess?
Emergency action plan.
Incident action plan, emergency action plan, they go by different times, different tiers. So, like I said, my name is Billy Freeman, WL4B. I'm a comm unit leader, CommT, and an EMT. That one doesn't have EMT on it. I'm retired from Memphis Fire Department for 28 years. And Jelly and I were part of, he still is, Tennessee Task Force 1, FEMA Urban Search and Rescue Team. I had 31 national disasters, mostly as a comm unit leader, comm technician, doing communications in the tactical world. Tim, my friend here, he used to run the system shop for the radio system in the city of Memphis, and he's now doing that for Light Gas Water. So he's the radio dude and good guy. And so anyway, this is our conversation. So this is a refresher. Has anybody ever taken any of the 100 ICS 100, 200, 700, 800 classes? So this is some of that. What I like to do in this class is not teach you ICS, because I'm an ICS instructor. I love teaching ICS. I love using ICS. Fire departments, we use it, and it was built on fire departments. But I like to give some people some understanding of how it works, and maybe prompt them to study and discover a little bit more about it, because this makes so much sense in the world of operations, and that's what I'm going to touch on. So we're going to talk about the Incident Command System, ICS, and the Incident Action Plan, IAP. You may see them called Operational Action Plan, depending on what tier it is, or Event Action Plan. But this is the top tier when IAP. So the biggest deal is it's standardized, it's all hazards, it's a tool. It mainly looks for the safety of the responders and other citizens. It allows for the understanding and the ability to achieve tactical objectives, and it uses efficient use of resources. And we'll talk about that, how that goes. It was born out of inefficient use of resources. Born in California on a wildland fire of about 10,000 people. And all this equipment poured in, and nobody knew who was doing what. And so they put a committee together, and they built, back in the 70s, the Incident Command System we use today. And it was built off of, come on, I was looking for you. I was going to be disappointed you weren't going to show up. It was built off of business principles, how business, corporations and stuff do work, hierarchy and that kind of stuff. We'll talk about it. How does it combine its purpose? It clarifies the chain of command and supervisory responsibilities. Everybody on an incident in the Incident Command System reports to one person. All the way up the chain, all the way down. One person you report to, and you know who it is. Leveraging interoperable communications. When all these resources come in, how do they talk to each other? That's what Jelly and I do, how we make people talk to each other, interoperable, with plain language, no 10 codes, nothing. It's just plain language, so everybody understands everybody. And that way everybody's on the same page. It provides orderly, systematic planning process. We'll talk about it. There's a process. It's flexible, so it can expand or contract as many times as it needs to. It can go up and down. Then that allows for not having resources sitting around doing nothing, not spending money, because the first thing that happens is the purse opens, and as soon as it opens, it starts closing, because these things can get expensive. Incidents can get expensive. And then it allows for different agencies to come in and work together, once again, being on that same page, understanding and speaking the same language. I love ICS, by the way. So this is an expanded incident command system. And so at the very top, you have the incident commander. And there are public information officer, PIO, safety officer, and liaison officer. Liaison officer is somebody that's interacting with another agency or a government entity, and they report directly to the incident commander. Then you have the operations section, the planning section, the logistics section, and the finance and admin section. These are the lead groups for these specific kinds of operations. These 4 and those 5 are what's called the command and general staff. And they are what leads the operation. This is the tip of the spear, the people out in the field downrange, the planning cell. I'll come back to them in a second. Where's my supply people from the military? Yeah, first thing I learned is don't piss off the supply sergeant. Logistics, the log dogs, first in, last out. They're doing all the stuff to make it run. And then finance and admin, everything's got to have paperwork and everything's got to have money. I'll come back to the planning section. I'm a trained plan section chief. Plans drives the mission. They determine what the resources are, how they can get it done, those kind of things. So we'll talk about that. Now, if you look at this, you see things break out. You have branches, divisions, groups, strike teams, task forces, single resources. You have units. It's all about what we call span of control. 3 to 7 people, 5 being the number that most people use. You don't get over managing one supervisor, managing more than 7 of something. That can be 7 people, that can be 7 strike teams. We use the 5 because that way you got some flexibility in there. So you can, a division can do 5, whatever it is. If it gets bigger, they got to put another division in place or a group. So a division, and these are these terms. I'm going to throw a lot of terms at you, but I'm trying to make you understand where that works. A division is a geographical location. We've had divisions named Cemetery North. A group is a specific function, like a medical group or a fire group or 100 other different kinds of groups. That separates them. That way you can break that branch down into 2. So there could be 3 over here and 3 over here. That's 6, 7, 8. But it's only 2 for the branch and 4 for each one of these. Does that make any sense? Does that make any sense? It's all about maintaining a small pocket that works efficiently. You start getting things in there, you got resources, you got demobilization. That we always say the first thing we start planning for when we mobilize is to demobilize, because it takes a lot of work. Communications unit leader, they fall under logistics. Just depends. And this thing could be, I've been on incidents board, Jelly's been on incidents board, there's 5,000 people on there. And every one of those 5,000 people falls into one of those, and that thing gets big, pages long. I'll show you how that works in a second. But that's exactly the way it works, and it's very simple. You can have a plan, you can have an incident team together that has an incident commander and an operations section, and that's it. But if you need more stuff, you need to bring in plans. And I'll show it on the sheets. It's called an operational period. Now, most operational periods are about 12 hours. They can be 24 hours. Most of them are about 12 hours, and that's how long we've planned for. We plan for that operational period. Start planning for the next one if there is one. But that way you keep it under control. The clock just doesn't tick along. It's got a specific purpose. I got to tone myself back down because I've been teaching this to the military, a 300 level course lately. And so anyway, it's just that hierarchy. And it works flawlessly? Absolutely not. But it's efficient enough and flexible enough to where if it doesn't work, you can fix it on the fly. So we're going to talk about the instant action plan, the purpose of the plan. The operational period I talked about includes the command structure, which we just looked at, what must be done, who's responsible for doing it, how do we communicate with each other, and what is the procedure for someone injured. It's that simple. That document, this instant action plan, I've seen them 100 pages long. Katrina was 100 pages long. But I only fell on one page. Everything else fell on all the other pages. Divisions, multiple branches, multiple groups. There's a couple of things that got to be done. You have to have objectives. You have to come up with a strategy, and you have to come up with the tactics. So in the fire world, strategies and tactics, does anybody know what the difference between strategies and tactics is?
A strategy is like an overarching thing where tactics are.
You're right on the money. Strategy is what has to be done. Tactics is how to get it done. Good answer. That's right on the money. Everybody, and you'll see this in another class if you happen to be there. Every person on an incident needs to be able to communicate with whom? Their supervisor. They don't need to be able to, we're talking about as a comm person because you see it. Just because you got a radio, and I don't want this to be ugly, but just because you got a radio doesn't mean you need to be able to talk to anybody on that incident. Unless you have a need to talk to anybody on that incident, which as you get up the command ladder. But what I call the rock crushers, I only need to be able to talk to the people that are crushing rocks with me and my supervisor. Because comm systems can get crazy big if you don't do that. This is very important. The whole operation will shut down. And it's supposed to, if somebody gets injured. Here's a basic forms, ICS forms, Incident Command System forms for an incident action plan. What I say, the first form is objective. We're going to look at these forms here in a minute. First form is objectives. We've got to know what somebody wants us to do. And those objectives are worked on by the incident commander and whomever they're supporting. You know, they need to, hey, we need you to do search and rescue in this area right here. Okay, we got that. Where's everybody assigned? How they're assigned? I can take an IEP, and if you learn even some basic terminology and what you're looking at, I can take an IEP. I can walk into an event that I haven't been into ever yet, and I can open up an IEP for that operational plan and know exactly what's going on everywhere across that, and it may be 100 miles across that. I can look at it and know exactly what's going on. Assignment list, this is the meat and potatoes of what's going on that incident. Who's assigned to do what? And there's not one form. There could be 50 of these forms. Assignments. Different areas, different branches, different divisions. There could be 50 of these forms or more. But that one list points, okay, this This assignment list right here is for these people, these resources doing this. Here's what we do a lot. It's an action plan, the instant radio communications plan, the COM plan, the 205, the ICS 205. I've seen them, Ike, Unified Command, was 4 or 5 pages long. It had something like 125 line items on it for radio lines. That's because we had thousands of people on there, state, federal, local. That was a fun one to put together. We put together some good ones. There's a couple of different ways that Instant Command works. You can have a single incident commander. You can have a unified incident command where Texas was a perfect example. When I went to the Pentagon, that was another example. They had unified command. They put them together, and it's several commanders making the decisions, the objectives, the different things. And then you have a wide area command that could stretch over. Wildland uses those a lot, that stretches over hundreds and hundreds of miles, and it's hard for one commander to understand that, but there's commanders that located at different locations, so those are wide area commands. A medical plan. I put a medical plan together for this event that we're doing. It shows closest hospitals. It gives direction about what to do if they need to call an ambulance. People are to be sent outside and wait, make sure the ambulance knows where they're coming to, that kind of stuff. We put a comm plan together. I gave the last one away. We put a communications plan together for this. That way everybody's on the same page. Safety plan, obviously those are very important to put one together. And then air ops, which can be crazy busy plans. But those, and like I said, it doesn't necessarily, that's usually one form that may have multiple pages because of objectives. But these other like 204s, 205s, 220s, they can be multi-pages. Questions? I know this is boring stuff, but if you want to understand how a disaster, if you ever want to be part of something that goes on, you got to understand this to some level. You don't have to understand it like I would teach it, but you got to understand it at some level. It follows very detailed, specific guidelines, and it should, because it's already a bad situation. This is just trying to box it up. So, the first thing that starts, I remember I said a minute ago, plans drives the mission. So somebody came up, I don't even actually remember who this was, but somebody came up with, this is called, what does that look like?
Racetrack.
It's the planning P. So it starts here. And it goes and it goes and goes and it goes, and then it gets, when it gets up to here, then you start doing the IAP, and we actually use it because it lays out the picture of how it's supposed to operate, and we go around that circle every operational period. Every single thing on here takes place from here up. This is the initial stuff. From here up all the way around the circle goes on to plan for every single operational period. The plans to be able to do this. And you can see right there, understanding the situation. One of these days it will stop. The flooding in Texas that we had last year, they just shut that incident command system down, that incident management team down from that. And they were doing that every single day. They were looking for one body And unfortunately, they never found it. But this is very simple. And you think, well, you guys do this all the time. Yeah, but be out on an incident for weeks and your brain starts getting foggy. That's always posted up on the wall. Where are we at? Okay, yeah. Certain people get to go to certain things. The whole incident doesn't get to go to these things. It's all, it's that planning upper sector. This is an interesting one, right? I'd never seen this before until I ran across it. The Coast Guard did this one. This is a planning piece for communications. How the comm guys put their stuff together. So I'm keeping that. Same process is just for the communications section. Doesn't change anything on the other one. The other one supersedes anything on this one. All right, so we're going to look at the forms. Hang with me. It's only about 6 more hours. So here's the objectives. And this is a real incident action plan. We were on this one together. This was my last, well, it wasn't my last one. That turned out not to be my last one. It was my last one with the team. Mexico Beach, Hurricane Michael. Big event, a lot of people, a lot of space. This is just a simple one-page objectives. And it's nothing, anything crazy. Ensure safety of all incident personnel and general public, first and foremost. If you ever have a problem with something, just throw the word safety out on it, and people go, okay, wait, all right. But you got to prove it. Support the coordination of urban search and rescue operations between all interagency partners. I mean, it's, everybody's got to work together. Logistics, the liaison with the federal, state, local, collect, compile, disseminate required data. It's so much data collected on these events now. Jelly used to teach when we first got the handheld GPSs, Garmin GPSs with a data card in them. Garmin 3s, yeah, way back. Jelly taught that course how to use that. Now we're doing it with Starlink connected to phones and tablets using high-end mapping software. Survey 123 and SARCOP, Search and Rescue Common Operating Picture from a company called Esri. They do, Esri? Yeah, they are the top tier mapping company. So anyway, there you go right there, Survey 123 for data collecting. And they're getting real-time live data in these emergency operations center 100 miles, 200 miles away, 1,000 miles away. They're getting real time. They always have it broadcast up on screen. They can look at the units moving and marking, this house cleared, this building cleared, this, what do we have here? What do we have there? It's pretty crazy to see. But this is very simple. Accountability at all time, weather, rising water. What is PPE? I bet 10 years ago, most of the people in this room couldn't say what that was. Thank you, COVID. Lookouts, communications, skates, LCES. We got to, you always got to make sure. But this is very simple, and this rarely changes because those are just very high-level, basic objectives. Then they'll talk about the plan, what's in the plan, what forms are in the plan. Somebody always puts it together, signs it, and it's an official. All these documents are official documents that have shown up in court before because they're an official log of what went on. All right, I talked about the organizational chart, the 203, and you can see that this is for what we call the overhead team or the incident support, the incident management team. Each task force or each resource does their own and feeds that information into this, but this is for the overhead team. So, I mean, you got ground support unit, you got mechanics, drivers, food, imagine that. Base camp managers, people, you got to howl, you got to feed and water people. And so all this knows procurement. I need to buy something. What's air ops going on? Who's running that? Well, who's running staging? Everybody has a place. If you've got nothing to do, they're demobbing you. If you're on that sheet, you're working, you're hitting and getting. That's the part of it that makes sure everybody knows who does what. Who do they go to? Page 2. As you started, I talked about those liaison officers. They're friend of mine. I don't know him. Friend of mine. I've worked with all these people. Gentlemen, I've worked with all these people. Public information officers, safety officers, liaisons officers, they're out talking and shaking and glad handing and the whole deal. They're in the EOCs going, we don't take over a mission. We're a federal asset, but we don't take over a mission. You ask us to come there, and then we put liaisons in these emergency operations centers, county, regional, state, and they'll come. It never fails. Most of the people on this list are firefighters. Most of the people in this system are firefighters. I walk into an EOC. I've been liaison many times. I walk into an EOC. I go like this. I find the guy or the girl in the fire uniform. I go right to them. Why? Instant relationship. I'm a firefighter. They're a firefighter. It's instant relationship. Say, hey, you got anything you're having trouble getting done? Yeah, we can handle it. That's the way it works. Relationships. But that's a very busy document right there. You can see this. Remember I talked about branches? That's just the Florida branch. That's just one sector of that operational period. This is a 24-hour operational period. Here's the assignment list. This is one, I think there was 25 or 30 of these in there. This is one for one branch, one division. Branch 1, Bay East. I put this one up here because that was us. We were at Mexico Beach. That was us. 80 person. You see this right here? It says type 1. So there's typing for resources. Type 1 is top tier 1 resource. It's 80 person. They're heavy structural collapse. We can do, this was our team, we can do weapons of mass destruction. We can do swift water rescue. We carry doctors. We carry engineers. We carry dogs. There's 80 of us. How many trucks are we up to now? 15? 15 trucks. Yeah, that doesn't include, that's trucks we own. That doesn't include the 2 buses that bring people. 80,000 pounds of equipment. Yeah. And we can move really fast. It's crazy how fast an 80,000 pound circus can move. We've literally had to get out before and bring chainsaws out and cut our way into something. But that's a type 1. Then you got a type 2, and they don't use the type 2 anymore. The difference between type 1 and a type 2 is the hazmat component, hazardous materials component. Type 3 is a very common one. They're small but not tiny. And type 4 is like a local fire department would do on a daily basis on a fire or something. Because they're running those ICS commands, it's embedded into their standard operating procedures. We always say every type 1 event, And when you have a type 1 event, now you're talking about federal resources and stuff, from all across the country coming in. Every type 1 event starts as a type 4. And it just talks about different things in here. Another assignment land. I put this second one in there because that's a second branch. That's a whole nother county, a whole nother couple of counties. I'll show you something in a second. So here's the incident comm plan. This was a unified command with the state of Florida and the Urban Search and Rescue. There's a system called the Emergency Support Functions, and there's, I don't know how many there is today, 15 or so of them, and they all like emergency support. ESF 4 is fire, ESF 2 is communications, ESF 9, which is where we fell in, was urban search and rescue. So this is unified command. But this is their state radio system, and they've got functions in there. Okay, we're using this one for command and control. We're using this for security, depending on where they are. Tampa, Jacksonville, Tallahassee. That's a big area. Air operations. This was the USAR, the Urban Search and Rescue Teams, different divisions. Different locations in that division. It gets very complicated. I can look at it, I swear it's funny. We've joked about it before. You ever watched the movie The Matrix? And he's in there watching the screen and it's going down. He says, you always watch it in its raw form? He said, yeah, the conscript, that looks like The Matrix to most people, but to me, I can spot it a mile away, because I've done it so much. But once again, I know what channel I need to be on. I need to know what it's being used for. Here's the medical plan. I showed that a minute ago. Once again, there can be 20, 30 of these because these go relative to the location. Division Bay East. That was just one location. So that medical plan, because hospitals, we're talking about hundreds of miles. Air operations, these can get busy. I never got qualified as in the branch world, in the division world, they're supervised by division supervisors, group supervisors, branch directors, unit leaders, section chiefs, strike team lead. They all have a title. There's always a leader for every one of those boxes. Once again, it's not complicated. It's because if you're standing here and you're the boot on the ground, all I need to know is who's beside me and who's above me, and that's it. But as you move up, then you start to understand the big picture, but it never changes. Who's beside me, who's above me. Categorize, you got SAR capability with swimmer, SAR capability with night and a swimmer, air ops. So this is what that one branch looked like. 60 miles east to west, 3,600 square miles. And that's not the biggest I've ever done. Gustav Ike was, all the way to Homa. So all that document is orchestrating everything in that box. Like a fine-tuned instrument. They're not looking through it every day. Only the people operating in this area, right? And we were down here. Where am I at? Yeah, we were down here. We only looked at what was related to ours. I didn't have time to see what was going on in Jackson County or Holmes, those other locations. All the way down. Okay, I know that was a rough one, but this is incredibly important to understand if you ever want to be a part of something. It is incredibly important to understand. And that you don't have to, like I said, you don't have to understand it the way I understand it. It just makes so much sense. And I lived it every day on the fire department. Questions? Hey, hold on, Charlie.
Your unit is over there by the fire department training on Highway 51?
Yeah.
Got a building over there?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Oh yeah, the warehouse. The task force warehouse is back here in the back at the Memphis Fire Training Center.
State Guard was over there a couple of times training.
Yeah, we got a rubble pile and a fun house where you can move the walls, and we do breaching and breaking, and we do all the different classes, structural collapse and confined space and hazmat tech and rope, and yeah, a lot of fun. Charlie.
Is it possible to get a copy of your slides?
Yeah. So, good question. So I always hate saying it like this. I have a company, but I teach. If you do stuff now, you have a corporation, but we teach ICS and communications, and have always run it through our company, and we do incident management staffing. I say all that to say we're allowed to give certificates for our training. Jelly and I helped write the all hazards communication courses. We teach them, and so we're allowed to get it. If you would like to have a certificate on this refresher for ICS, hit this real quick with your QR. I'm not handing it to you. Hit this with your QR code and fill out. And there's a drop down. Select this class, and put your name and email down at the bottom of it, and we'll send you a certificate if you want to. Some people do. Anybody want one? Oh, you want one? I know you do. Don't go anywhere with these. They told me I only had so many of them. They said, get a scissors. I said, I got no scissors with me. Jelly's probably got 12 scissors in his pocket.
No.
I know, I apologize. There's some other good classes coming up, but this is my passion. So you had to sit through my passion.
We use the at the Italian festival.
Yeah. I mean, you could put an incident action plan together for a dog show. Just because it gets everybody understanding who's on what. Who's on first? No more questions?